Welcome to Anchor Pilot. Ukraine's tactical and strategic dominance on the battlefield throws a lethal shadow over the most senior Russian generals. Kiev is capable of inflicting sniper hits on Moscow's military leadership through imaginative and daring operations. This not only disturbs Russia's military strategy, but also alters the course of the conflict. You may recall that a few days ago, an offensive occurred that radically transformed the dynamics of the struggle between Russia and Ukraine, in addition to increasing Ukrainian soldiers' morale. Ukraine's strike on the Belbek air base in Crimea altered Russia's military strategy. The core effort of the operation was led by at least 3 Ukrainian Su-24 assault planes that fired at least 6 cruise missiles from either the British Storm Shadow or the French Scalp at targets near the facility. Social media outlets in Crimea first reported explosions in the local airspace at 600 hours. According to a few sources, at least 1 missile struck both the underground headquarters and the airport, similar to what we saw near Mariupol last year. There is evidence that 2 missiles targeted the 38th Fighter Aviation Regiment's command center, while another destroyed the airfield's communication center. Both of these occurrences are confirmed to have occurred during these strikes. 1 Russian fighter plane was completely destroyed. The assassination of Russian generals and troops was certainly the most terrible loss that Russia faced as a result of the missile attack on the Belbek airbase. Lieutenant General Alexander Tatarenko and 10 of his soldiers were rendered impotent as a direct result of the missile strike. Tatarenko was the general in charge of the Belbek airbase, the most technologically advanced and well-defended airbase in Russian Federation territory near the Black Sea. Tatarenko, 63 years old, was named commander of the 14th Air Force and Air Defense Army of the Central Military District of the Russian Federation in 2016. In addition to Siberia, the general was stationed in northern Russia, the Urals and the Far East. The military leadership in Moscow has suffered several fatalities as a result of their aggressive invasion of Ukraine, and this purge adds to an already terrible situation. Lieutenant General Oleg Yurovich Sokov is the highest senior Russian general acknowledged to have been killed in Ukraine as a result of the current events. In July 2023, Sokov was killed in an incident in Berens, Ukraine. The strike was conducted out by British Storm Shadow cruise missiles, according to ongoing speculation. Earlier this month, Admiral Viktor Suv, commander of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, was allegedly killed in a cruise missile attack on his headquarters carried out by the Ukrainian military in September, but he has not been seen since. The Russian administration has confirmed that only 7 generals have been killed since the conflict began. The rationale for Rus-Ukraine's activities have significantly influenced Russia's ability to organize and carry out war operations, resulting in internal instability within the chain of command. Ukraine's Meth-Me is not only a military victory, but as a result of such strikes on the Russian army's higher echelons, enemy troop morale suffers and doubt arises, both of which have the potential to change the course of the fight. Each Russian general who is removed from power becomes a symbol of Ukraine's determination to defend its independence and territorial integrity. This demonstrates Kiev's willingness to go to great lengths to rescue its country from occupation and protect its people's independence. Putin declared that the most essential task for the Russian forces on the ground are to push the existing front line deeper into Ukraine. This statement was delivered during a meeting with his elected MPS. The Kremlin's leader emphasized the concept of a demilitarized or sanitary zone in Ukraine, claiming that it would keep Russian territory, including occupied Ukraine, out of range of both frontline artillery and long-range weapons supplied by the West. He also stated that this would prohibit the Russian military from operating in Ukraine. There is some confusion about Putin's goal, which is to force the front line so that Russia's claimed and occupied territory is out of Ukraine's firing range. It is nearly impossible to achieve as long as Ukraine has the ability to fight on its own. In order to fulfill this so-called goal, Putin is likely to invade the Ukrainian land that Russia has successfully seized. Whatever happens, he will make sure that Ukrainian military equipment can reach the newly obtained Russian area. A Russian nationalist military blogger commented on this scenario, suggesting that in order to prevent the possibility of a long-range attack on Crimea, he would also need to win control of the cities of Lviv and Odessa. According to Mill blogger, during the war, Russian soldiers would also need to capture control of the Sloansk-Katar line in the Indonesian oblast. Furthermore, Putin's remarks do not much differ from Russia's proclaimed war goals or actual military capacity. This is based on their words. On the other hand, it is quite likely that their goal is to capitalize on pre-existing narratives that have the ability to stymie both short-term and long-term Western military assistance for Ukraine and force the West to participate in negotiations. This ostensibly demilitarized zone was enlarged to encompass KV, which Putin had previously identified. According to the Russian Federation, the most likely purpose for this operation was to profit on the dispute about the possibility of a Russian military invasion along KV Oas's northern border with Belgorod Oblast. Such an effort could have occurred in an effort to divert Ukrainian attention away from Russia's ongoing offensive operations along the Luhansk Oblast axis. Putin may propose increasing or expanding these exchanges on the opposite side. Russian forces in Belgrade Oblast continue to feel that they are succeeding in carrying out tactical actions that will just shift attention away from the problem. It is also possible that Putin is aiming to capitalize on the renewed interest among Russian ultranationalists in establishing a buffer zone between the Kharkiv and Belgorod oblasts. This buffer zone would redirect Ukrainian artillery and multi-launch rocket systems away from the international border with Belgrade Oblast. Vladimir Putin has previously suggested that he would consider establishing such a buffer zone in response to popular displeasure with limited cross-border assaults carried out by pro-Ukrainian forces in Belgrade Oblast during the summer of 2023. But the Russian military has yet to take any action to demonstrate that Prime Minister Putin is serious about this strike. Furthermore, Putin noted that Russia's offensive operation near Aviva has the ability to give Russian audiences in the finale. Vladimir Putin reiterated the dominant narrative that Russia's conflict in Ukraine is a struggle for Russian sovereignty that is cleaning Russian society of those who oppose it, so unifying Russian society. The confrontation between Russia and Ukraine is complicated. Kiev launches offensives beyond the front lines, diminishing Moscow's military capability, morale, and motivation. Throughout the struggle, these operations demonstrated the Ukrainian military's tactical prowess and strategic thought on the battlefield. The Ukrainian government aims to tilt the fight in its favor by focusing on the adversary's most valuable assets. This illustrates not just Ukraine's desire to maintain its land, but also the country's dedication to safeguarding its national honor, despite the fact that the front line has remained largely intact and Ukraine's attack axis has grown. Vladimir Putin is still attempting to keep his tail up. The Russian commander's intimidating attitude simply serves to force his army into harsher situations. All of this means that the coming days will be full with exciting happenings. Thanks for following us.